Senate passes bill to prohibit theft of electricity supply infrastructures.
Federal government initiates water security policy for improved water quality and better livelihood.
FCT High Court dismisses embezzlement charges against suspended Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC.
Good Morning Nigeria today examines Nigeria's rail transportation, milestones and prospects.
Right now, for a majority of Nigerians who all right, many thanks to you, Mitairi Ikbeng. But again, Kingsley, as you always say, that's just one leg, of our railway transportation milestone and prospects.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. It's much more elaborate, but of course we'll get to that shortly.
All right, let's quickly welcome our guests. And first, here seated with us in the studio is the Minister of Transportation, Chibike Rotimi Amaechi. Honorable Minister, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
We also have in the studio the Managing Director, Nigerian Railway Corporation, Mr. Fidet Okiria. Thank you very much for joining us. And Engineer Adekunle Mokuolu is President, Nigerian Society of Engineers. Engineer, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right. Once again, gentlemen, you're welcome to the program. But let's begin first with the Honorable Minister of Transportation. Take it off from the background report. Reporter, of course, focused on what's going on now on the Abuja-Kaduna rail corridor. Right? Some would say good news, and others would also say bad news. Assuming the train services were not available, you won't be having the kind of rush. But what does all of that mean to you at this time in terms of the pressure on the train services, plus the obvious frustration that the number of intended passengers are suffering?
Well, the first thing is that before construction, I think the traffic count was what we provided for. The traffic count will determine the number of coaches and locomotives that you put on the track. So the traffic count did not exceed 600 passengers. And now when you have security pressures, now build on railways, you will certainly know that the solution is not what the young man was talking about, e-ticketing. If you put e-ticket, it just means that people will buy tickets by online process. Now, even if they buy 600, if you buy 600, you have a pressure of 1,500 persons. So you have to provide for that extra number of about 700 to 800 persons. So what we've done is to request the Managing Director of NSE to go to Itabewari and pull out two more coaches to see how we can manage that pressure. But in the long run, what you need more coaches, you need more locomotives to be able to service the demand. But the demand is temporary. At the moment the security pressure on the Kaduna-Abuja is fixed, those men who own cars usually will go by road, will go back to the road, and that pressure will reduce.
I don't know, that's an assumption that when the security, situation improves, the search for the train services will probably reduce, given the experience and the comfort of, and of course the cost availability. That probably might not, that assumption might not hold, because a lot more people are really demanding for rail transport system. So are we just scratching at the tip of this modernization, or do we have, a broader vision?
The vision has always been there, but I smiled because when you talk about if we are scratching on this thing and not finding the solution is to provide tracks and provide coaches and locomotives. That we have done. The problem is that you've not provided enough to match the current upsurge. And let me tell you why I think that surge will reduce. There are men who to address, okay, let me take it this way. To address transportation to Kaduna or to Abuja, you must provide for intermodal process. Intermodality means that you have to provide for buses or taxis that will pick people at the point at Rigasa or at Idu or at Kubwa. Now, if you add the cost of those transportation to the cost of railway, it may possibly be higher than taking transport from Kaduna straight to Abuja. It may. So there are people who say, oh no, I can't bear that cost, despite the comfort, despite the air-conditioned atmosphere, the restaurant or whatever this thing you find in the railway, and we're beginning to increase the speed from 90 to 120. At 120, we expect that should be in Kaduna an hour plus. Now, despite all those comfort, there are those who say, if it's safe and I drive my car, it is shorter and quicker to get to where I'm going to than picking a train. Those people will be out of rail. The people who will be out of rail will be those who will look at the cost and say to them, I have other, maybe my car will be parked at the station and to pick me at the station and all that. And what we're doing, what we have to do is to, government is subsidizing rail. So what we have to do is make it affordable for the poor to use. Currently, the rich, the wealthy, and the poor are using it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, so some person will say, look, are these projections arising from, evidence in terms of what you're describing now, whether passenger traffic will increase or decrease? But the jury is still out on that issue. But one question to ask is, what is the challenge in procuring additional locomotives or even coaches? Coaches obviously are cheaper than locomotives.
It's not brought up the shelf. Okay, so I can go to the president. Mr. President, good morning, sir. We have pressure in Kaduna. Can I get an approval to buy more coaches? Even if the president says yes, or public procurement department say yes, go to cabinet says yes, it will take us another 1 year to bring in those coaches. Because they then have to start fabricating the coaches. What you say is like, we shall provide for the way we are providing for Lagos-Ibadan. Lagos-Ibadan will have enough coaches because we projected the number of passengers and projected to the future they need. So I think what happened in the case of Kaduna Abuja is that because in the economic study of Lagos-Kano, Kaduna Abuja did not produce enough passenger traffic. So naturally, in the Lagos Kano, it is the least provided for in terms of coaches because the pressure is not there. We didn't expect that there would be this pressure of people. There was no time people would say they were standing. It was the more the security pressure increased, the more the demand for railways also increased. Now, currently, like I said, we are going to move 2 coaches from Itakbe to Itakbe because the passengers, this in traffic there is just 100. So if it's just 100 passengers, 2 coaches will be enough at 88, that will be 170 something passengers. When did you get only 100? And what we're also going to do is we're going to China in the next 1 week to inspect the fabrication of more coaches and locomotives meant for Lagos-Ibadan. We believe that those coaches, when they arrive, the demand for Lagos-Ibadan will not be as high as the number of coaches they were bringing in. So some of them will be deployed to Kaduna Abuja, some will be deployed to Itabewari if and when the traffic pressure increases. What we'll do by next year's budget, not 2019, it depends on who is the Minister for Transport. I expect that what the Minister will do is to now request for more locomotives and coaches so we're not caught napping like we are caught in the case of Kaduna Abuja.
Right, Honorable Minister.
But first, you must realize the study is scientific. It's not a guesswork.
Yes, because
well, of course, if we don't need to drill further into that. I'm sure that scientific studies can be reviewed from time to time. If we are seeing this pressure now, what are the projections, going forward? But there's still, you've referenced the Itakbe-Warri rail corridor. Tell us some more about that, because that rail corridor again is critical not just for passenger traffic but also relevant to the steel industry, iron and steel industry, which unfortunately isn't getting traction.
Well, that's not the oil and steel industry, I think, is being handled by my colleague, and he's doing quite well. It's intricate and it's very complex. So I don't think that anybody should make a statement on it until you understand what is going on between the Ministry of Mines and Steel and then those who had bought the factories. Now, Itabewari is completed, excluding stations and communication, which we're working on. I was there last week. Yeah, last week, yeah. And saw that the rapid rate at which those stations are being constructed between June and September, most of them should be completed. I don't know, I can't project on the communication, but even if you don't have communication, let's assume you have only one train running on that track, so you don't need too much communication, except for purpose of security. But then we're working hard to ensure that by the end of this year, the communication system would have been installed, and then we'll be left with just the infrastructure for accommodation for staff and all that, which will be going to cabinet in the next few weeks. It's meant for, which, although we inherited a bit of it, we changed it into, or we included the passenger part of it, but it was mainly intended for iron ore. Now we've added passenger, and we intend to, if the cabinet approves, to get on that route from Abuja to Baro to Itabe, so you can connect the south-south to Abuja. It's even our intention, if we get approval today, to start the construction of the Lagos-Calabar from maybe Port Harcourt to Warri, to enable the south-south first link to Warri, while we're looking for funds to complete the Lagos to Calabar. So it's ongoing, and I think the speed at which we are chasing it, we must thank the President for the approval of funds and the release of money in this extremely difficult time, which wasn't like that in the past.
Minister, I'm not still done with Abuja-Kaduna rail. For now, that's the pride of the ministry and of the country.
Do you use it?
Well, I did once. In fact, I had to, like I told Kingsley earlier on, my phobia for train services, I beat it by going on that train for the first time. Well, I didn't used to. I mean, I had a phobia for it. Yes.
You're scared, why?
Yes, but I had to do that.
I feel most comfortable in the train.
Well,
I'm most secured.
Yeah, and one of
the. I want to explain why.
I'll do that later. Actually, one of the promises, that the administration made was to provide a cost-effective, rail transport. And as you must have heard from the passengers, the issue of tickets, racketeering and all that. And recently there were reports about some people, in fact, key staff, being arrested by the EFCC. I'd like the minister to really, clarify that for us, and what is being done to address that issue, to ensure that people, obtain their tickets at the right official rates.
What can I do? I'm not a policeman, neither am I EFCC. But what we've done, first, you see, there are 2 or 3 weeks prior to this incident, 2 or 3 weeks before that, I had appeared at that station and warned the woman who was in charge of ticketing that I don't want to hear about ticket racketeering anymore. So it was embarrassing when the Minister of Justice, Madam SAN, called me one weekend, that Saturday or Sunday, and said, do you know what's going on at Idu? And I said, no. First and foremost, I'm the minister, I'm not the managing director of NRC, neither am I the manager of the station. But, well, the way the government is run, I'm allowed to have such information and react to it. So when he called and said, do you know what's going on at Idu? And are you aware that they are selling tickets, which ticket you're selling for 1,500 is being sold for 3,000 to 5,000? I said, why would that happen? He said, go and investigate. And I carried out an investigation. That was true. I think the FCC did well in coming in with plain clothes and arrested some people. Those of our staff that have been arrested, ordinarily, you would have said they will be dismissed. But they have to follow the procedure. So we allow them go through the procedure for punishing those who commit such crimes. Like I said that day when I was talking to the woman, I said the problem with the country is that people are not punished for committing crime. So it encourages people to be criminal-minded. Now, those staff that are involved in these activities will be disciplined. They must be disciplined according to the rules of the civil service. Secondly, we've been with ICRC for nearly a year or two now, trying to get a partnership with a private firm to get this purchase of ticket online. It's not an easy process. Most would say, if you saw this, you will see that even there are no security protection for you to engage the platform. All that is being put in place. They're not things you just wake up one day and you dictate it. Amaechi says put those things and it happens. In fact, if somebody had asked me between being a governor and being a minister, which one would you prefer? Because as a governor, as you go there, you just call somebody, my friend, fix this thing, and it's fixed. As a minister, you have to first and foremost go back to your ministry. You have to develop the concept. You have to go to ICRC. You have to go to, after ICRC, you must go to BPP. When the two of them are approved, then you go to cabinet. That may take you 6 to 7 to 8 months. But we're almost at the end of ICRC, so we'll get to the cabinet, requesting cabinet approval. We're also going to partnership with the firm. Once they agree, her responsibility is to provide all the necessary security infrastructure at every station. So far, between Kaduna and Abuja, the entire Lagos, I hope the entire Lagos-Kano, and then put us on an e-ticketing platform.
Does the minister have any specific word for the passengers now, because they're watching with regards to this issue of
there's nothing anybody can do until you follow the process. You know, one thing about all of us Nigerians is that when a man is caught for not following process, we jubilate. Criminal is a thief. When he then decides to follow process, oh, you're too slow. It's the law. We just have to wait. Remember, we'll go to cabinet when we pass through ICRC. When it goes to cabinet, it's approved, then the company can proceed.
Okay, I don't know whether you're done with. Yeah, of course, we have other guests before we bring them in. Still on this time, rail infrastructure. Let's return to Lagos-Ibadan. What is the status? There's been a shift, in the completion date. What went wrong, if any, and what are the prospects?
Completion date is a 3-year contract.
Yeah, it has 3 year has a terminal date.
Okay, so you still have 1 year plus now. If we go by the 3 year, like I think what the company says. He said, "No, minister. Okay, I didn't know if you read this paper last 2-3 weeks when I visited here. There are two things they said. They call me now.com. Well, they asked me a question and I laughed. He said, "Minister, election is over now. Why are we still in a hurry?" And I said, I need to put passengers on this track and reduce the pressure at the seaport. Because the moment that rail is working, then the pressure at the seaport, the so-called Lagos gridlock will be solved. I want my name attached to the fact that we'll find a solution to that Lagos gridlock. What will find a solution to that Lagos gridlock is movement of those goods away from Lagos by rail out. It saves us the harassment on the road. It saves us the destruction of our road infrastructure and all that. So we are not only on target, we've surpassed the target. We are going to complete track formation latest the first or second week in June. That's record breaking for a 3-year contract. So when we complete that, we're already constructing railway, stations, and I've told them in 3 months' time they should complete the small stations. Then we can then focus on the big ones, which they say will take us nearly a year to complete.
But the minister was also reported, and in fact, one of our footages in the reports, you expressed concern, very, very deep concern about the speed of work in terms of the track lane within a specified time frame. Can the minister hint at what is causing that delay? Why you were really very angry?
There is no delay. If we look at it in the contract, listen, the contract has an expiration period. That's 3 years, and this is 1 year, 6 months or 7 months. So there's no delay if you look at it. Why I say there's a delay is that when we meet, we give ourselves targets. So like we met the last time, we say we must hit kilometer. This week we say 110 this week. That's what we said. No, this month. So May 8th, when I get there on May 8th, I expect that they will have hit kilometer 110. That day they were to hit kilometer 95, and they hit kilometer 92. They had an explanation which I refuse to agree with. The explanation was that there was a community they had not built an overhead bridge for them to walk across, and the community felt that if they pass there at kilometer 92 without building, they may not come back. So the community stopped them. It took them 3 to 4 days to reconcile with the community, and that affected the speed with which they could have gotten to kilometer 95. So I expressed dismay. But you pressmen, you just look, man, this is something that somebody else would have been handling while you continue your construction, or call the attention of the ministry that would then come to address the community. But you didn't do any of those things. You stopped work. That's what I said. Then they say minister is disappointed at the pace of work. That's what happened.
You're expressing optimism as to how the Lagos-Ibadan rail system, once it gets running, would help ease the traffic congestion in Lagos.
At Apapa.
In Lagos, Apapa, of course, that's where the traffic menace is. What is the connection? Because there were issues, of course, there were old rail lines that had become disused. Are those rail lines now being rehabilitated?
The president has insisted that we must rehabilitate those rail lines. But you see, we don't want to use our money. We had gone into an agreement with GE to fund it and run it for the number of years for which they will recover their money. Then we got into a conversation with, after them, they pulled back just because they had some crisis. We're talking with Transnet. We've not concluded that, even though that Transnet has local problems in their country, but we're talking with Transnet to see how they can come in and invest. But you see, what we're doing is that's where we deviate with the President Obasanjo's modernization. President Obasanjo's modernization entails that once you finish the standard gauge, then you have nothing to do with the narrow gauge. We are saying, no, let's get an investor to rehabilitate the narrow gauge and run it himself and recover his money while we continue construction of the standard gauge. The reason is there are pressures, political pressures on us, both political and economic pressures, for us to get rail to areas where they are most needed. And then we don't have the necessary finances to back up that pressure. If we had it, we would say to hell with narrow gauge. So what we would do is to say, look, let's get people to rehabilitate the narrow gauge, and so that we can continue to run our businesses and passenger activities on those narrow gauge, no matter how slow it is. Because I'm told that narrow gauge does not exceed 100 kilometers per hour, as compared to standard gauge that takes you 120, 150, 250, 350. Currently, the Chinese rail is 350. So in a day, you should be in Kano. 350 kilometers per hour. So you can see that for 1,500 kilometers, certainly 5, 6 to 7 hours you should be in Kano. We don't have that. Ours is 150 design, 120 actual, right? So, and the money is huge. Like I said, we need about $36 billion to be able to get all the rails we need. Not all the rails we want, all the rails we need. And we don't have $36 billion. So for the president, look, like he told me last week, he said, Amaechi, get your priorities right. Can we focus on rehabilitating the narrow gauge while we're working on the standard gauge? So those disused tracks you have heading to the seaport will be rehabilitated while we are currently constructing the standard gauge to the seaport. We believe that by December we should get the standard gauge to the seaport. If that happens, it will be a lot easier to move goods out of the seaport from Apapa than what we are currently suffering, and where you have this pressure on Apapa, what is called Apapa gridlock.
Okay, just before we expand our conversation, I know we've been cutting partners, external partners, for loans to finance the outstanding portions of this railway project, Lagos-Kano and all that. I'm wondering, and I know a lot of people are also wondering, what will be the source of repaying these loans? Will ticketing, just be enough source?
It depends on the number of years that we are given to repay. I believe that Lagos-Kano can repay itself. But if it doesn't, they will have other sources. Because whether you like it or not, you need to construct these railways. So if you want to use your own money to construct, then you wait for eternity to construct that. But if you have to source funds from the international community to be able to fund it, like it's done in nearly all the countries. There's nowhere in the world that railway has been funded by the private investors. What they fund is operation, not construction, because the cost is exorbitant. Now, so if you ask how would it be paid back, I believe that Lagos-Kano, because if they are currently doing 30 million tons of cargo in a year, I'm sure that once it improves, the tonnage will also increase, and so we'll be able to pay some of the loans back from that. But I don't believe that we'll be able to fund all of them back from from ticketing or running the railway. I believe that there will be other sources from the national revenue.
All right, Honorable Minister, thank you very much. Let's pause where we've virtually focused on the western corridor of the rail system. We'll return to you and then take a look at the eastern corridor. But in the meantime, let's now bring in Engineer Freeborn Okiria, who is the Managing Director of the Nigerian Railway Corporation. My colleague earlier introduced him. Engineer Okiria, of course, again, with you, we will return to the Abuja-Kaduna rail corridor. There are managerial issues here in terms of management of passenger traffic, particularly the ticket racketeering. What exactly has been wrong? Is it just lax supervision or otherwise?
If you look back, as the minister said, the volume of people coming to the station have gone up. And if you also cross-check the people arrested, I think only 2 were railway staff. You see, we have made it a way that before you buy your ticket, you must come with an ID, not necessarily passport or driver's license, but something to at least identify yourself. And we'll make sure at the back of your ticket is written the number of the ID card, and we have manifest. That allows you to enter the waiting room. So, and when the train is ready to go, about 15 minutes to, they now start boarding people. And you must show your ID card to match the ID card number on the back of your ticket, must match with the ticket. But sometimes you have people coming, say we are family, and only one of them, maybe say 4 or 3 children. It's okay, you put their numbers on the 3 tickets. That is the parent ID card. Those are the tickets they go back and sell. So when the FCC came, they are doing their work and they arrested people. Most of them, the staff arrested are not even on the ticket desk. One is on health and safety, and one is not even supposed to be at the station. And a policeman that's supposed to be protecting the people selling the ticket were those picked. Yes. So that's, I'm just bringing it out so that you understand how the ticket is being sold presently. But we'll be making effort to ensure even your ATM can use it as it's done abroad. That's what the system we are profiling and we have been working on. That's with now with ICROC, so that you don't need to even meet somebody, no contact. But we should have to have that system, the infrastructure in place for that to function. So we have to get it right. As you see, when demand is more than the supply, there's always going to be pressure. And in most cases, especially Abuja-Kaduna is a very sensitive, that's what we told our staff, and they have to make sure they do the right thing. If you tell me you are going to Abuja, you call me, I want to go to Abuja, please, I will be going so time, please help to get ticket. Will I tell you no?
Well,
that's reservation.
Is that, yeah, that's a reservation. You don't purchase a ticket.
Okay, you reserve, somebody will give it to you. Is that correct?
No, the way it's done, you make a reservation booking, and when you go there and present your details, it's confirmed, you pay, and you come.
But when you come and pay, and somebody else was on the queue, because I've reserved for you, and when you come, you pay and give you tickets, it's racketeering. Because somebody was there at the station waiting.
No, but MD, are you denying the fact that ticket racketeering is going on in Idu?
You see, there are ways. Let's racketeering. There are no fake tickets. Do you agree with that? Because our tickets are secured, very secured.
So the tickets are hoarded, or the tickets are purchased allegedly by some of your staff in collusion with others. And so they hoard them so that near the time of departure, they start hacking up
who is patronizing those people?
Passengers.
So it's not a one-way thing. I'm not defending them. What I'm trying to say is that Nigerians should learn how to do the right thing. They should not encourage such practice.
Okay, let me ask
However,
you,
to solve this problem,
let me ask you one other question that you can take along. Do you have a uniform, fee, both for the SP1, as you call it, and the SP2?
No,
you don't.
Yes.
But there are passengers who paid the same thing, whether it's the economy class or the
why should you pay?
His argument is that look, there's a place to buy a ticket. Where buy from? Anybody else?
Well, they will tell you. Hold on. They will tell you simply, oh, the ticket is no longer available.
So
yeah,
so it is available now.
No, if a passenger has to be at a certain destination, they tell the ticket is not available. But if you go to that guy, maybe he has this ticket to 1,000.
The guy,
and the person will tell you
because we have as far as placing staff name.
No, but is this
on our staff?
Just a minute.
Apart from ID cards, we have prepared a tag.
Is that a proper? Just hold on a second, please. Yeah. Is that a proper managerial approach? By the time we start reading the tweets that we have from our viewers, you will hear the torrent of complaints.
I thank God we are here to
no, they will hear the torrent. I'm just asking whether it's a proper managerial approach. Racketeering is racketeering. You find it, for football games and so on and so forth. People will buy tickets, hold them, and then at match time they'll start selling those tickets at a premium. What we just said is, look, fine, EFCC has busted a couple of them. You said only 1 or 2 of them were your staff. But what else can be done to improve on the ticketing procedure for what is now obviously your flagship corridor?
Okay, that's what the minister has explained, what is ongoing now presently. The only way to say that is to have enough coaches, and luckily enough, among those ones we have ordered for Lagos, there's an element for Abuja-Kaduna. It was captured in that contract, about 15 coaches and 4 locomotives.
If you put 15 coaches on that, you will not have any passenger at all.
And from what we have, from the study, if you make a train 20, the pressure will be there, because everybody wants to travel on Friday night to Kaduna. So where you have this issue of practical racketeering, it's Friday, Saturday, then Sunday and Monday. So what we have tried to do, at least to reduce it, not that to reduce the number of trains you have, not the number of coaches you have per train. If there are trains every 30 minutes, every 1 hour, because somebody that is going to Kano want to get to Kaduna so they can join a vehicle, but at a particular time so that he will not travel by night. So, but when you have it 1 hour, so you can have the patience to wait for the next 1 hour. Not the president, I think it's 2 hours. So when those coaches and locomotives will increase the number of times we run, and why the ticketing process is in place. In rail all over the world, you are not supposed to sell ticket. You can say you can buy in advance, but that's where you run train every 5 minutes. But where you run train more than 1 hour, you must have to wait for the train to depart this station before you start selling at the next station. To ensure that you don't sell ticket and the train eventually is cancelled, or you have a problem with the locomotive and it's not running. So it's part of the working instruction that a train must depart station A before station B can start selling. So that's why you see, if you it's a law in our system, not only in Nigeria, but when you start running every 5 minutes, you can come and buy every time, which we are not doing presently.
Mokuolu, we'll soon come to you. Let's finish with the MD first.
I just want to be clear. Why would you say, if you have an online system, why would you wait until the train departs, say, Abuja, and heading to the next stop, which is like 15 or 30 minutes away? It's so worldwide. I don't think that is correct.
No, I've made an exemption. I said, where you run train every 5 minutes, you buy ticket online.
Okay. You can't run trains every 5 minutes. You can run the subway every 5 minutes, or a tram.
It's a train.
Nobody tram. I mean, no, we're talking now about. I'm sorry. No, this is not. I'm just trying to clarify this for the benefit of our viewers. I mean, a subway, you know, or the underground, you know, or the tram, which goes, you know, every 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But if it's a train, I mean, those are scheduled services.
Yes.
And you have intervals depending on the volume of traffic and depending on the management. It could be anything. It could be hourly. It could be 2 hours, and so on and so forth. But the managerial issue is, how do you modernize it such that those who are buying so-called, is it a Molu now that you'll be buying standing ticket at Kubwa?
No, you see, the solution to this problem is that when the coaches we are expecting come in and we deploy them. You see, you say somebody is standing, but the person standing has taken another ticket. Nobody standing say ticket for somebody to stand. But you say, I can't go back to town. Do you know the cost of this? So we make them write another taking, find out, do your this thing independently and find out. They say, please just give me a ticket, I will stand.
What is your undertaking?
You sign that I'm sitting, because seats are located in present day Abuja-Kaduna. Seats are located. You can ask your people who go on it and those who have gone to do.
Is that best practice?
Of course, to allocate seats.
Everybody must have a seat.
No, best practice.
No, to stand.
Because you are talking about undertaking. I wonder, the minister is listening. Well, Nigerians will say, God forbid.
Yeah.
In any eventuality, they will sue the hell out of Nigerian Railway Corporation.
Right.
I'm standing. If something happens and then maybe a passenger hits, he said that because he was standing, that was why he sustained.
How do we resolve this issue now? Even with people standing, you still have hold on. You still have people crying. There are people who struggle, beat up the staff, that they must go with the train. Are you getting me?
Yes.
So, and they said, okay, no more seats. And there are limits. You can stand even. I have stood in a train abroad.
These are provisions that you have made to accommodate more passengers. Yeah. Now, let me tell you.
No, but you should have asked your colleague Kingsley the question. If we say only 600 passengers can go in, and there are about 1,500 passengers, do you know what will be happening now?
Even those 600 cannot board.
There'll be total chaos. They won't even allow 600 to board. So, but you see, the problem with Nigerians is that when they have accepted to stand on their own volition, and they stand and get to the place, when they come down, imagine I stood for 2 hours.
Precisely.
but it's a temporary measure to ensure that everybody is accommodated. Yeah, but temporary.
Yes.
What I can tell you, I think we have done. I've directed Nigerian corporation to bring two coaches from
Itape.
And don't forget to this minister has directed. It will take more than 2 weeks to come, because there's no track from Itape to Abuja. So to come by road, they have to get the necessary vehicles that will convey by road. And don't forget that the roads are bad. So it's only when it gets in that it will begin to operate.
Okay, well, thank you.
Sorry, I wanted to, yes. You know, when I rode on that train, it was quite comfortable for me.
Even with your phobia.
Even with my phobia. But there are people who have complained of, you know, breakdowns, the ACs are not working.
That's not correct.
No, Claire, if you don't mind, can we pause on that, because there are issues arising from breakdowns of services. We'll come to you presently on that. But let's bring in now Engineer Mokuolu, who is the president of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. That's Adekunle Mokuolu. Of course, you've been listening to what the other guests have been saying, and also smiling when I was talking about whether, you know, the corridor has now become a mole. That's Fela Adekunle 99 standing, 44 sitting or something, if you remember that record. But more seriously, the government, and here the minister has been talking about the efforts being made in terms of expanding rail infrastructure and rail services. One question that comes to mind readily: are Nigerian engineers bystanders in all of this?
Well, thank you very much. We are not bystanders, by standards. The thing is that from day one, when railway came into this country in 1898, Nigerians have been involved. At that time, there were no Nigerian engineers. But then, I recall that by 1963 to 64, thereabout, Nigerian engineers were so involved to the extent that they constructed, I think, Gombe to Maiduguri, about 400 kilometers on their own without any expatriate. So railway and engineering is a global knowledge. If you have it, you have it. Now, but the thing is that, let me just make these thoughts known. We are talking about passenger. Railway, as it is not meant for passengers. The primary provision of railway infrastructure is to move goods, services, and products. Okay, the one where you now say, okay, maybe you now complement intercity travels by having passengers, use them, you now have coaches. The other one, you just use rolling stocks and the locomotive. This one, the locomotive and the coaches. Now, when there is scarcity, we are human beings. Anything can happen. And you find a situation whereby if things continue like this, in the next 1 week, you say they are standing, people will be staying on the roof. If you go to Lagos between 6:30 and 8, you'll see people on the roof. Because you see, for railway, it's not like an aircraft. Okay? Whatever load you put on it, it will take. Because the issue is that it needs weight. That's why coaches and they are very massive in steel, so that they can make appropriate contact with the rail to roll. Because if the weight is not enough, it will slide. Because they have to continue to overcome the friction. Now, so the issue of passenger safety is what really you are talking about. That it's not good for them to be standing and rail is not like a bus. You can't be having it every 5 minutes. Of course, that's the reason why we need metro lines, because metro lines, you know, they operate on the basis of railway system. Okay, but then the capacity that is for Nigerian engineers, our concern is that we make sure that this system is sustainable, because when you do not domesticate a process or a facility in your country, it is not sustainable. And since this knowledge is a global knowledge, okay, Nigerian engineers, they did it on their own. All of them were even working in NRC, Nigerian Railway Corporation. There was no contract awarded even at that time. It was direct labor. And they constructed about 400 kilometers of road in 4 years. So, and the people, most of them that did it now, they've all passed on. People like engineer Folisheke Phillips, he did that. So, what we are saying is this: for Nigerians to enjoy these facilities, okay, we have to domesticate it. And railway, of course, is a catalyst. Is a provision, a facility that can trigger off industrialization along the routes, development of our rural areas, and so on and so forth. In fact, there are some places where there are no roads right now, and then you have rails that can get to them. The other thing that is very important is this: the younger ones, that is, railway can generate a spin-off of employment for our young ones. Well, I still need to thank the Honorable Minister of Transportation, His Excellency Rotimi Amaechi, for getting some of our engineers, some young engineers, you know, both young engineers in NSE, to participate with the consultants. They embedded them in the consultants. We wrote to him that we need to do this local capacity building. It is too important. And well, we got 8 slots.
At what point? Sorry, at what point? Because you talked about domestication and sustenance.
Yes.
And I'm asking, at what point do you think that Nigerian engineer or this whole project can be domesticated? At what point in the value chain?
Very good point. At the point of conception. Like we talked to in fact, we made a publication in 2016 that at the time they were negotiating all these contracts, the professionals in the value chain should have been embedded in the whole process. It is very important. Yes, somebody is giving us money, but we are going to pay back. And we need to fashion out a system where we will pay back. Because if you don't pay back, you are in more trouble. Because if you give me a facility that I cannot pay back on, I'm owing you, and then when I have a maintenance problem, what happens? I cannot use the facility again. And that was why you were coming to the point where you were saying about, talking about a breakdown. There must be, both manpower and product building to ensure that we can maintain and expand and improve
what are you seeing now in terms of all of that you are talking about? Okay. Because maintenance has to be there, spares and supplies and so on and so forth. What are you seeing from the engineering point of view?
Very good point. It has been done before. I've read the history of NRC, Nigerian Railway Corporation. Their workshop, if you go there, you'll be amazed. They could turn out anything, fabricate anything. So, and those things, those knowledge and skills, they vanished when there was no need for them again. So this is the time to resuscitate them. And the truth of the matter is that if somebody perceives that you have some resources that are very useful to them, they really do not want to give you the tricks. They want you to depend on them. It's you that will own it and ensure that you create a process whereby you'll be very independent. It is good that we are getting loans, but the truth of the matter is that you should not be a debtor, because in the final analysis, really a debtor is someone who cannot really repay his loan. There's no problem at getting loan, but when your repayment date is due and you cannot pay, you become a debtor. Now, we do not want to become a debtor by ensuring that our domestic, activities can repay the loan, and that has to be determined ab initio.
Okay, Engineer Mokuolu, let's pause you for a while. We'll go on a very short break. We've got lots and lots of tweets. We'll take the tweets and then we'll take the next set of questions.
A new edition of TV Guide is out with special focus on the role of the media in election coverage. Exclusive on the National Broadcasting Commission, its mandate as the sole regulator of Nigerian media. Dr. Toba Daba then and Ishat Modibo Kawu now. This edition also features the king of stand-up comedy in Nigeria, Ali Baba. NTA standards to be ready for election transmission after decades of abandonment. Find out from the DG transactional elections in our political space. An evil wind that blows no good. DG, National Orientation Agency cautions. Guide, your indispensable companion, x-rays the impact of social media on electioneering process as electorates present their expectations from incoming government. Meet some TV professionals behind the screen and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
I don't cover my hand from oil bunkering.
General, what you gonna yarn? What did the yarn serve? I don't understand though.
Because they spoil our water and our environment. And they cause our people serious harm. Militants is there. You know good. Me, I not do again sound. Because why? Change begins with me.
General, don't move!
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous. Whether you do it for fun or for political gains, real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
All right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we're looking at rail transportation milestones and prospects. We have the Minister of Transportation here with us. We have the MD of Railway, and of course we have the President of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. But we've got tweets also from you. Let's quickly run through them. First, to Sakimbo Iwa is saying, Honorable Minister should be happy that Nigerians are moving from road to railway. He should stop assuming that many Nigerians will be comfortable to go back to the road.
Well, there's a second set of tweets you're starting off with, Claire, but that's fair enough.
Okay.
Alhaji Musa Hadeja tweets, so we have the rail lines in Jigawa and Yobe that are being used for conveying groundnuts, hides and skin since decades, but not included for renovation in the 2019 budget.
All right, and this is God Bless Uko. What is the government doing concerning rail transport in Cross River and Akwa Ibom states? And why can't the ticket be sold for the number of seats in the train?
Now, this is coming from Chuks Akuna. Is the Minister of Transport saying that until security improves on the Abuja-Kaduna expressway, Nigerians will have to endure the nightmare of traveling from Abuja to Kaduna by train where tickets go for as much as 15,000 naira one way?
And Sani Michael or Makoji tweets, as we think of bringing rail back on track, we should not over-concentrate our effort on it as we are doing in the oil sector now, to the extent that we forget water transportation and other forms of transportation. However, we need experts, men of proven integrity to succeed. Now,
Danlade Ndaebo tweets, projections, yes, but the government has no choice but to check the activities of greedy train station officials who hoard tickets. I wonder why the ticketing is not yet automated. It's a modern train. Tickets should be available online to eliminate the problem of racketeering.
And the last Don tweets, can't we have more coaches, more departure time, and more transparency in ticketing? Nigerians are ready to pay.
Now, this is from Ife. Gone are the days people queue to buy tickets. It must be online.
And man, Chido, Nigeria, they say, is the giant of Africa, so we must do things right. Rail transport is good for this country. We must go digital on selling the tickets. The federal government must provide CPU system to check the irregularities.
Law Alpha C. Government should focus adequately on rail transportation as a major area of revenue generation by beaming its searchlight on qualifications and transparency in its coordination and operations.
And Festus again gives a solution. He says ticket racketeering can only be solved by making train services regular and readily available to all Nigerians. Government should invest more in rail services, provide more coaches, which will put ticket touts and racketeers out of business.
Now, Chris Simeon has this tweet, short and sharp. He said, to go by train is convenient, but it is slow.
All right, and Dele Jack Solomon, let's apply ICT through tap card. This will prevent ticket racketeering. Also, let's employ the latest train authorization systems, automatic train protection ATP, and in-cab signaling in all of its lines. And he has quite a number of suggestions there.
All right, now Titus Monday Knock tweet says, honestly and sincerely, he writes, the best way to go is online ticketing system. Full stop.
All right.
All right. Those are the tweets that we can accommodate in the meantime. But let's bring in again Engineer Adekunle Mokuolu. You were talking about the involvement of Nigerian engineers in all of this, because as the system continues to expand, there is still a lot of work to be done. And then, of course, once you have the work done, you also have maintenance issues. Okay. Every year we are churning out graduates of engineering, whether for the polytechnics or the universities. How involved should Nigerian engineers be in what's going on?
Thank you very much. Well, the first thing is that it is the right of every citizen to be involved in what is happening in his country as a professional. So whether it's engineering, whether it's law or politics or whatever, because you can as well say, oh, there's a good governor somewhere in Thailand or America or somewhere. So he should now come and be a governor in your state. Yes, it's as simple as that. Now, these Chinese, let me tell you, when maglev came, that is the magnetic process of railway. They call it maglev in short, but it's German. It was developed by the Germans. When the Chinese wanted it, okay, in the late 80s, they begged, okay, come and give us the high-speed train, because that is where you have, you know, you get the speed of more than 120 kilometers an hour. And they embedded in their contract that they will only do one. After that, we will take over and do it. And they started developing just like 1985. And now they are exporting that skill to us here. Whereas, on our own, we built our tracks in 1963-64, 400 kilometers. No one single expatriate was there.
So what happened to those? What happened to them?
Yeah, because when they are, well, you know the history of our country. The truth of the matter is that if you have a situation where you have individual expertise and collective incompetence through dictatorship processes, that is where, because the beauty of democracy is not providing rules and good rules and water and everything. Engineer
Mokuolu, let me quickly ask you, because we must race for time now.
Yeah.
The rail development, it's a very complex technology. It involves very complex technology. For instance, fabricating the sleepers. Do we have the competence for that?
Yes. Answer is yes. We've been doing it before, and we can still do it now. Look, the MD of NRC, you just give him 100 kilometers. I want the minister to take this to FEC. Let him do by direct labor 100 kilometers. Let him take the recruit Nigerians. We don't want even from design to commissioning. Well, we will do it. Then the other thing that is very important is this. See, we do not even need to start debating this. The truth is that if you continue to eat other people's food, it's a matter of time you go hungry. Okay. The same thing with, so just like what the government did with rice,
I'm sorry.
That is what they should do with engineering infrastructure in this country.
Engineer Mokuolu, thanks. You are illustrating now the main point that you have made. I was just wondering, back again to the Honorable Minister, I know that sometimes in terms of mentality, we are saying, look, our challenge now is to get this infrastructure and get the services to our people. But in all of this, jobs are being created. I don't think we have seen a sense of the numbers, of the number of jobs being created. He was talking about direct labor in laying rail tracks or in laying constructing sleepers.
If we give you 100 kilometers now, can you do it?
With the funding.
With the funding.
I will do it, but that does not mean we will do everything local.
Oh. What do you mean? What do you mean?
So we still need to import the rail. We don't have the steel.
Not even that. I don't think
the knowledge is there.
Sorry, please. I don't think that Nigerian engineers are being fair to us. They should be honest enough in doing this. When we have applications from the Nigerian engineers, not even for construction, for supervision, they tell us they will get foreign partners. Because you see, the technology he's talking about in the 60s, it's not the technology that there is in the railway now. That time it was narrow gauge at 80 kilometers, 100 kilometers per hour. Now you have engines around 120, 150, 250, 350. And when train accidents happen, it is not one or two persons that die. They die in droves. So for a responsible government, you must be careful. Extremely careful. Now, as a governor, I thank God I was once a governor, that experience. We were put in the cabinet room here, and we were shown Nigerian universities where they even use candle in place of electricity. Is that kind of? I don't think that's the kind of this you're exposed to, that kind of technology that will harm or that will have to deal with lives. What I think can happen is what we are currently doing. retrain Nigerian engineers, put them on the job, let them be supervised by those who have come with the technology. So what are we doing currently? What we're doing currently is to say to team, for instance, supervising engineer, look, if you need 100 staff, let only 10 be foreigners. The rest 90 must be qualified Nigerian engineers that are supervised by people, and you transfer that technology. What are we doing with the contractor that is constructing? Currently, there was this scandal, we're taking people overseas to go and study in China. The process should have been more transparent than it was and all that. We're taking the total of 150 Nigerian students to China to go and study the Chinese technology on those rails, and they will do 5 years first degree course. We intend to, so that some of them should continue to masters and PhD, because we are currently establishing 2 universities in Nigeria. One in Daura, Transport University in Daura, and the other in Ubima in River State, Transport University. And this will deal with the logistics, civil engineering, railway engineering, mechanical, electrical, all that. So that by the time you bring a Nigerian engineer for railways into the system, you know he's a qualified engineer. I'm not saying that Nigerian engineers are not qualified. I'm saying because we have abandoned railway for a very long time, they may not have those requisite experiences that those people had. The people he's referring to that built 400 kilometers of railway, right? He's right to the extent that if you look at the construction, there will be only 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 foreign engineers supervising the rest engineers. And for instance, there is a team 4 in Lagos-Kano. It's supervised by a Nigerian engineer, a lady for that matter. Her name is Precious. I tease her a lot because when you go there, you see her alone for how many kilometers? Over 10 to 20 kilometers. At the end of team 4 is the team 5. It's supervised by an Italian engineer. But what is important is that by the time you take away Precious now from supervising to construction, she already has the experience from the job she had done earlier. So I don't think that it's just that easy to just say to us, oh, put Nigerian engineers and start constructing. You may have a situation where you have a lot of derailment, and derailment could cause death.
That's a big slap on
I didn't say that. I don't know what you mean by a big slap.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, sir, because if Engineer Mo...
I'm agonizing here.
Okay.
I'm agonizing.
Please.
Because
pour out your argument.
I am the one, the minister is not the one to tell us that we have capacity for these things. I'm the one to say to the minister either whether we have capacity for it or not.
Why?
The reason is that I'm the professional. I'm in charge of the profession. And let him try. It's as simple as that. So it's not about paper or anything. And the truth of the matter is this. How did those people that we are patronizing, how did they get their experience from? How did they get their skill and their knowledge? Science is a global knowledge. It's how you use it. So we're talking about Nigerian universities and so on. If they give these things to professionals, the professional bodies to do, we will know a way of ensuring that we have the right facilities to train, the students in the universities. And if you do, and engineering is, you keep doing and improving. Look, these things that we are talking about, the first locomotive was going at less than 8 kilometers an hour. So what are we talking about? The most important thing is that...
But is it true? Is it true? Sorry, quickly, yeah. We have less than 4 minutes to go. Is it true that when Nigerian or indigenous engineers are contracted for a particular work, you now enlist, you outsource it, so to speak?
To foreign,
yes.
Technical.
Let me correct what he's saying and correct what he heard me say. I'm not talking about our senior engineers. I'm talking about the ones we use on the job. We don't use the senior engineer, a man at 50, 60, who may have had experiences. We use young men of 22, 25. At that point, they need retraining. They have left university. So when you say he's agonizing, he will agonize if I said our engineers can't do this job. I said the engineers I'm using on site are 18-year-old, 22, 25, that may not have had these experiences he's talking about. So when those engineers, I'm confident with those engineers, what then happens is that he supervised. He's talked about China. I can give you the history of the Chinese technology. They told me clearly that the first thing they did was they brought in GM and GE. General Motors from America, GE, General Electric, and kept them, General Motors, to teach them manufacturing of cars. And they kept them for over 15-20 years understudying them. GE, the same. I can also tell a similar history in South Africa. They brought in a Chinese company and GE. So what the South African engineers did was to understudy GE, and the Chinese company, now they are fabricating coaches yet. Just like they are attempting to fabricate locomotives, they are not
but
perfect.
why is the minister not also enlisting the services of senior Nigerian engineers?
They can't work in my by law. There is an age you get to, you can't be a staff of the ministry anymore. So we're not saying they're not qualified. I said the senior engineers are qualified, they have experiences, but they can't work in the ministry.
But if these are contracts, is there an age cap on a client who
let me make some clearance here. You see, I'm part of the construction team. I'm an engineer. I'm a fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers. And we have more than 20 engineers, about 4 fellows of the Nigerian Society of Engineers working in railway. Anything they do.
How many? 4.
That are fellows.
Fellows.
4.
Fellows.
Yeah, 4.
Fellows of Nigerian Society of It's like SAN.
I say 4.
Yes.
Okay. It is like SAN.
It's like, as you have SAN in law, you have fellow.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Correct.
I know, but I'm just saying 4.
Yes.
It's too low.
That's precisely.
Okay.
That is the implication of what I'm saying.
That are supervising even the Chinese. We supervise the Chinese. So do you understand? We had a preliminary design and say, okay, this is what we want in our country. Develop it, and they will develop, pass it to the consultant. Pass. If we don't say good, because we use our culture and tradition, what we do A and B, it's not just, they don't just import what they do in China, because the climate is not the same. Our attitude is not the same. You see, in China, they may raise their track for people not to cross. In Nigeria, we fence. Are you getting me? So those things we bring in.
Is that not the domestication that the engineer is talking about? What you saying?
You see, the slippers are made in Nigeria, and if you go to the site where they are making the slippers, you may see 5 Chinese and 200 Nigerians.
What is the big deal about making slippers?
Just hold on.
Yes.
Get this correctly.
Yes.
It is not as if Nigerian engineers are not being used.
Part of it.
I said, it's not as if you didn't get me well. I said, if there are 100 persons, 10 are foreigners, 90 are Nigerians. Get the point we're making. But we're saying that most of this technology currently are imported. So Nigerian engineers can't tell me that they have perfect knowledge of those technologies that have imported. So we allowed those 10 persons who may have developed this technology to come in, so that if there are mistakes here and there, they're able to say these are mistakes and all that. So because railway involves lives. Nigerian engineers are being used. But the ones that are fresh from universities, you leave them like that? No. We keep them to be retrained by the people you have given these contracts to. They may be Nigerian engineers. I've given an example where Nigerian engineers are supervising. Tabewore, there's one good able Nigerian engineer that is supervising. I hardly see the Italians there. I don't know the guy's name. Chinedu. He's a Nigerian engineer. But what I'm saying is, for me to hire an 18, 20-year-old boy who is fresh from university and make him a supervisor, that will be taking a big risk. But for the senior engineers that we can't employ, the ones that are already there are supervising. They may not be enough. And because the technology we are talking about now is new and modern, it's not the one he was referring to in the 60s. We need those who fabricated that technology to come and this. And like I could say, even the Chinese learn from Americans. South Africans learn from both Chinese and Americans. And our engineers can't just say that,
Minister, if you look at our time, we are
pressed.
Yes.
Pressed.
Really
I don't
pressed.
know. Maybe we'll have the Honorable Minister come back at some point to talk about the Eastern Rail Corridor. And then the linkage, Calabar, Lagos, all those Benin, all those ones, yes, that they are talking about. But today the Minister has not had the opportunity because we dealt more with consumer issues.
But I'd like the Minister to speak to the issue of the transportation just in less than a minute. What is the idea behind the transportation university you talked about?
The idea is to get fresh students trained in railway engineering. That way you're focusing purely on railway engineering. And not just railway engineering, you deal with logistics. So all this issue of ticketing, cargoes and all that, you deal with that and ensure that everything about railway engineering is put together under one roof called the Transportation University. That's one. You deal with maritime transportation. You also deal with aviation and deal with other land transport. That's what that university will provide. So it's a specialized university, and we'll begin to take students as soon as we conclude construction.